might be slowly ruining your wearable pump, and you wouldn't even necessarily know it unless it's too late. And I want to say this up front. This is not because you're careless. It's not because you're rough with your pump. It's because no one really explained what's happening inside of these devices and how they're designed. Most moms think if something goes wrong with their wearable pump, the pump was just defective, or poor quality, or small motor. I've heard a lot of different things. Or wearables just don't last that long. But that's usually not the full story. Over the past few months, I've had conversations with several pump manufacturers. In fact, I talk with pump companies a lot, but there were two that were really close together. They were wearable pumps that we were talking about, different brands, different teams, and there was one thing that kept coming back in these conversations. It was that a significant percentage of the wearable pump returns that they got were not because the motor just randomly failed or there was a problem with the pump. It was most often because liquid got in the motor. And when you stop to think about it, that really makes a lot of sense. We dived into some of the whys that happen and how to stop them, which we're also going to cover in this video. But I think the big point for me was these are $300, $400, sometimes $500 electronic devices sitting right next to milk and other liquid. Milk is liquid, right? Electronics and liquid don't mix. That's not a brand problem or a pump quality problem. It's physics, and no one really teaches moms how to protect that reality. I've actually also seen some photos from moms who have taken apart their wearable pumps and kind of looked on the inside and found mold and milk residue. Again, this is not that the pumps were bad quality. This just happens, especially if we don't take care of it. I remember one in particular, she actually had got an LV, I think I have one here, LV, used, and it just like wasn't working super great. So she broke it open and the inside was crazy. There was mold and milk in there. And again, I don't think the mom that had used it had probably been careless, but if you can really mess up your wearable pump if you don't use it correctly. Usually in these cases, moms are using them carefully, washing their parts, trying to do everything right. And it's not usually one dramatic accident that causes these things. It's usually slow exposure over time. And I think that's part of what most people don't realize when you're using a wearable pump. Okay, I think most moms assume that liquid damage only happens when you're pouring milk straight from the pump or in the motor. But there are a lot of different areas where milk can get inside and cause problems. And every pump is designed a little bit differently. I have seen some of actually I'm going to show you a really cheap pump first. This is a pump from Bella Baby, I think it is. I think I got it for $25 on Amazon. It kind of looks like cat ears. Anyway, kind of loud, clunky, but it does the job. I just want to show you the case design for this. So this is the backflow protector that keeps milk away from all the parts. But there are 4 different like screws holding this together. There's also a break here in the casing. Again, some of this is just how a pump is designed, but milk and water and anything can get in all of those holes. Oh, there's also a little suction hole in here, but that's where the suction is happening. But if milk happened to leak around the backflow protector and get in there, that would get it directly in the motor. But there's a lot of other places that it can indirectly get. And this could be milk. It could also be water. If your pump parts are not completely dry before you're using them, or if you're washing them and like kind of drying them and then like putting it back together, and even just storing them together can make things challenging. This pump actually has the charging port on the outside, which is actually pretty smart. A lot of pumps that I see have them, like on the side or even on the inside, which again, it's just closer to liquids. And so that always worries me a little bit. And then I am seeing a lot of pump designs lately too, where the hole is at the top here. So you actually could finish your pumping session and then pour the milk straight out here, but you're pouring it right past the motor. You know what I mean? It just makes me nervous. And this is a tricky thing because you have to put parts together. Like this is the Lascivio, very high-end pump, very well made. The founder of this pump actually was thinking about milk in the motor as well. Like this was something she designed it with. But you can see there's still, you have to put the pump together somehow, right? There's brakes here, a couple of screws down here. I will say that this one is much more solid than the one that we just looked at. Like there's gaps, like I could I could get liquid in there really easily. This one is a lot more solid, but again, sometimes you just can't get around that. For any of you doing the fridge hack, this is also why we do not recommend putting the motor in the fridge, right? Because you can just get condensation and liquid in there. So some pumps where the pumps are designed a little bit more together, where it's kind of hard to separate some parts that you wouldn't want milk in, and or I keep saying milk, but I mean liquid. It doesn't have to be milk. It can be water, condensation, anything like that. It can cause issues. A lot of the charging ports, again, are another point of entry. A lot of them do have the silicone flaps on them, which is really nice. If it doesn't, then you're at higher risk there. The classic, USB-C port that we're seeing on a lot of pumps is kind of at a higher risk for liquid in the motor. Some of the more magnetic ones have lower risk there as well. If you're bending forward repeatedly, moving around a lot while pumping, again, like milk just kind of gets everywhere. It just kind of does. If you've done any pumping, that that happens. But again, what we see causing problems are usually tiny amounts that happen kind of repeatedly over weeks or months. That is enough to cause the motor to fail or it just to not perform correctly, and is part of the reason why wearables get a bad rap for not lasting very long. The hard part here too is that you won't necessarily see it happening. There's no warning light that says moisture detected and one day it just won't turn on, or the suction will feel weaker, or it starts behaving inconsistently. And at that point it can feel kind of random. But again, I think one of the companies mentioned that they guessed 80% of the pumps that were returned had moisture in the motor. That's a lot. So this is why I gently push back on the idea that wearables just don't last. You've probably heard that before. Maybe you've even thought, well, wearables aren't really primary pumps, or they're convenient, but I'm probably gonna have to replace this throughout my journey. Wearables can last, and they also can remove milk well, which will be the next video you can watch after this, because that's a whole different topic. But they absolutely can be part of your long pumping journey. But the reality is they are still electronic devices living next to liquid and near liquid often. If you treat them like sealed milk containers, they won't last. You are going to have to replace it. If you treat them like electronics that need protection, they behave very differently. And this is a huge mindset shift. Okay, so if I had a wearable pump and I was using it, and I personally wanted to protect it and make it last my entire pumping journey, best that it could, here's what I would think about. I would never pour milk while the motor is still attached. I would always, always, always take that off and deal with it that way. It can seem convenient. I would never do it. I would also make sure that every single part is completely dry before reconnecting the motor. Even if that means letting it air dry a little bit longer, or getting an extra set of parts so that we can clearly let those dry as long as they need. No liquid, no moisture. And, for me, hopefully they'd been dry like overnight again. So sometimes getting extra parts can help you with that. I would never fridge hack a motor. Never, never. The fridge hack is already questionable. We do talk about that in our Pumping Efficiently course, the pros and cons of the fridge hack and how to do it as safely as possible. But the motor never belongs in the fridge. So you cannot just put the whole pump in there. I would also store the motor separately from the wet components, which I know sounds annoying because it can be really easy just to put it all back together and store it like that so it's ready for your next session. Actually, there's a reason I pulled out this pump in particular, because they actually designed their case so that you can store these separately. So you can actually, sorry, got a lot in my hands here. You can actually store them separately like this, but above and beyond that, this one actually comes with a separate wet bag where you can store those pieces. And the nice thing is it's got this double seal zipper. Like, this was meant to not let any moisture in or out. This actually fits. So if you set the motors in the case this way, this actually fits right there, and you can close this. And now they're totally separate. I love this design. And I was talking to the owner of this company. She did that very intentionally because she wants these pumps to last longer for you. So storing them separately like that, there's a complete barrier between them, is really going to help your wearable last longer. I would also be mindful of the charging ports, of where that is and making sure that I don't get liquid near that spot. I would also limit excessive bending and intense movement while pumping, especially if I'm using a wearable for longer sessions. I know that's a big reason a lot of moms use wearables is for multitasking and things like that, but I would be cautious of that, not just for the milk reason. Again, I'll put some information in another video, but that's one of the reasons why milk output is a little bit lower too. Anyway, another topic. But none of this is complicated, and intentional handling is what protects a $400 investment sitting next to liquid multiple times a day. This really is about something bigger though. Pumping isn't just about output. It's about understanding your equipment. It's about knowing how to use it, know how it functions and what its weak points are. And this is just one example of an area where understanding your equipment can really benefit you long term. Most moms are handed a very expensive device with zero education on how to protect it. And when something goes wrong, they assume it's defective. And sometimes it is, right? And they are smaller motors. Like there are limitations that come with it, but often it's slow liquid exposure that no one warned them about. There's nothing more jarring in your experience when your equipment stops working. And it doesn't matter why that is. If it could have been prevented, that could have saved you a lot of headache and issues in that moment. So when you understand your equipment, you protect your milk, you protect your time and your money. And that's a completely different way to approach pumping. This is just one small aspect of wearables, right? Really understanding the whole picture can help. So if you already have a wearable and you're realizing that there's more to this than just assembling it and putting it in your bra and pushing start, we do have a wearable pump course that's coming very soon. It will go much deeper into optimizing milk removal, protecting your investment with things like that, building a pumping plan, and being able to create a milk supply using a wearable pump that actually works for you. You can join the waitlist below so that you're the first to know when that opens. We'll be offering a discount when it opens as well. And if you're watching this video a few months after it's published, it's probably already live. I'll put the link down below for you. If you haven't purchased a wearable yet, you can take our wearable pump quiz. This will help you figure out which type actually fits your body and your needs, your schedule, and your goals. So you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on something that doesn't actually work for you. I know you're not ruining your pump on purpose. I also know that you're not intentionally sabotaging your milk supply with the way that you use a pump, right? But small habits matter more than most people realize. And when you understand how your equipment actually works, everything about the pumping experience becomes more predictable and a lot less expensive. I'm going to put another video up here on wearable pumps about how to maximize your output. I think that's the obvious next step in this sequence here. I really think you'll enjoy it because there's a lot more to wearable pumps than we realize. All right, good luck to you and happy pumping.